Good morning and welcome to our final session, really. We've got the Q&A that we'll be getting to in another couple days, but this is technically our last live training session. So without further ado, we are going to get through it. Now, this last week, essentially what we talked about was the importance of, even if it's not where you're at right now, to be thinking about delegating, outsourcing, and leveraging your time. Sooner rather than later is always the goal. So throughout the past, I guess, 3 months, 90 days, 12 weeks, we've gone through and we've talked about the different aspects of your business that will help you actually build a solid real estate career. It's not the stuff that typically is going to be found when it comes to, going through real estate school to pass your test. These are the things that boots on the ground, day in, day out, these are going to be the things that will set you apart and make you successful. So with that in mind, delegating and outsourcing, again, is probably not where a lot of newer agents, probably in that first year or so, should really expect to find themselves. You're still learning the ropes in a lot of ways, but with an eye towards the future. The thought is, what is it that you're doing right now that down the road you could outsource? You could leverage your time more. You could have more of your life back by outsourcing some of those tasks. So with that in mind, we talked through a number of different areas where you might do that. Everywhere from your finances, your marketing, to finding people who, can help you just in more of an administrative capacity. So definitely recommend that this sits kind of in the back of your mind so that as you continue building your business, this becomes something where you can refer back to these details when it comes to being able to actually grow your business. The one thing kind of left you with to be able to do is just making that list of everything you do and segmenting it into the things that only you can do. Things like probably going on listing appointments, going on buyer consultation appointments, those things where you are the one bringing your expertise and your knowledge into the situation. And then all of those things that you could outsource, whether it's something you just don't like doing, or it's something that is a lower dollar value when it comes to your time. If you can be spending time doing $100 an hour tasks, then you should not be spending your time at the $10 an hour task, essentially, is kind of the principle that we were going off of. So making that list and then just segmenting it so that as you get closer to that day when you're able to start outsourcing, you know already kind of where it is that you're looking for that person to step in and help you out. So this week we are going to wrap up with events. Now, this is kind of marketing. Definitely there's marketing that is going to go into it. But as we're looking for, what would be one of those final things to kind of leave you with when it comes to the business of being in real estate? Throwing events is definitely one of those, and it combines a whole lot of what we've already talked about. It's the marketing piece. It's setting up the automated emails and follow-up reminders and invites in your CRM. So there's a lot of those kinds of things where, again, we've sort of built up to this point. Now, we'll be talking through a number of different things. If you are more introverted, typically you don't think of events as something that you'd really want to do. But I am going to say that the leverage you get from an event can be phenomenal. It's definitely one of those things where it does not need to be a big event. You don't have to invite absolutely everybody you know. You can put parameters on it so that it's not huge and overwhelming, especially for the first one or two when you're still getting your feet under you. But there are some wonderful results that you can get from hosting an event. So we'll talk about why events specifically. Obviously, the keeping it simple aspect. So again, we're not going for, a grand hotel ballroom for whatever kind of event it is that you're thinking. Make it fun, keep it true to you. I'll definitely give you some details, but we're looking for simple, and that's typically going to be that sweet spot that you want to stay in. It may grow, but the more complexity you add to it, the more of a challenge it ends up just being overall to manage, especially if you're still working as a solo agent. The communication that goes into it, if if you've attended events in the past few years, you've probably received, reminders, or maybe you haven't and it skipped your mind. So we're going to talk through the communication that goes into staying in touch with people, leading up to the event, post event as well. The follow up aspect of events is something where a lot of people just fall down, and the follow-up, you've probably heard it, the fortunes in the follow-up. So that's going to be one of those things that we'll talk through. How is it that you're actually going to be communicating with folks leading up to, through, and then following your event. And then obviously just some quick recommendations when it comes to best practices, basically. All right, why it's important. Real estate is a relationship business. It is not one of those kinds of things where you can just sit behind a computer screen and put stuff out into the world and that's going to get you where you want to go in your business. That's just not the way that it works. Real estate, when it comes to actually like building and growing your business, it is very, very people centric. It is all about either maintaining and investing in relationships that you already have. And from those relationships will come referrals and recommendations. And most agents, over half their business typically is going to be through referrals. But that comes with having a relationship with people, staying in touch, being top of mind, all of the things that we've talked about earlier between your marketing and your CRM and making calls, etc. Marketing to and touching people in a variety of ways will keep it exciting and interesting for you and for them. It's one of those kinds of things where, depending on your personality, we've talked about, the emails that you can send out. We've talked about text messages. We've talked about phone calls, video messages. We've really kind of covered the gamut when it comes to the ways that you are reaching out to people. Gifts, pop buys, those kinds of things. An event, what's really sweet about that is it does allow you to reach lots of people all at the same time. Now, if you're working solo, it's going to be a little bit tough to interact with all of those people all at the same time. So that might not be what you're after. Again, we'll talk about size and some boundaries that you can put on it so it's not overwhelming. But it is one of those kinds of things where having an event, it's different. It's face to face. It's, again, another way. It adds to the variety of ways that you are touching people. By opening up events to people outside of your sphere, so you invite your sphere, the people that you want to attend your event, and then you could expand it to, hey, if you know somebody, bring them. Feel free to invite, people who might be interested in real estate, who are looking to buy or sell in the next year, however that looks, gives you an opportunity to expand your circle by tapping into the circle of friends and family that your people have. So you can get that exposure. You can expand your database just by opening up events to the friends of your friends. You don't have to put it together every month. You don't even have to do one every quarter. Working towards doing one quarterly is probably not a bad idea. Again, there's the principle of it just being something where there's a lot of benefit to being able to stay in touch with people, to have something to invite them to. And it takes some of the pressure off of you when it comes to being able to, have conversations with people, start conversations, but not always feel like it's necessarily all having to be about real estate on your end. Again, a relation for people too, being able to give people something that goes a long way towards being able to feed into a relationship. Also, prompts one of the laws of reciprocity, where it's like when somebody gives you something, there is an innate, unprompted sense of wanting to reciprocate. So again, it's not one of those kinds of things where you're after it strictly just to get something. People can feel that energy. That comes across always as just very, very unpleasant. People will not go for that. But just understanding that that is something that naturally follows. You give something, people feel obligated. They want to return that favor in some way. So again, when it comes to like asking for those referrals, if you have given, if you have invited, if you have been able to invest in other people, it makes it very, very easy for them to turn around and give back to you. So that's kind of behind the scenes. Why is it important to consider events as part of your marketing plan, part of your business practice? So why events? Everyone loves to be invited to something, especially after the past few years. Things are a little bit weird. You've got people who are very happy to go, and then there's also the flip side where it's like everybody's gotten kind of used to not going anywhere, and so it can feel a little bit odd. Obviously, everybody's tolerance levels right now are all over the map, so some of this is going to be dependent upon your area, the people that you know, and just kind of navigating some of those details. But everybody does love that invitation. It's one of those kinds of things where it expresses thoughtfulness. It expresses individuality, where it's not like you're just mass mailing a postcard. Like you are actually having to send or invite somebody to something on an individual basis. So again, it's a really great way to connect with people and have a reason to get in touch with them outside of the, hey, want to strike up a conversation about real estate. People don't interact with you. People who don't interact with you in any other way might be excited to come. So again, you might be sending emails and text messages and postcards and doing a variety of things, not hearing much of anything from certain people, but they might love to come to an event. Again, a lot of it is personality dependent, but it gives you another way of reaching out and touching people, you know, once, twice, up to 4 times a year, if you're to that point. Those are definitely things that you can be doing to engage people in a slightly different way. And you stay top of mind. So again, that concept of being able to give something to people, knowing that there will be a return to some level. There's tons of contact opportunities both before, during, and after your event, which means that you are in touch with these people on a regular basis, which again keeps you top of mind. So the idea of events, there is a ton of leverage that can be had from hosting an event. Again, it does not have to be overwhelming, but there are the benefits of it, especially if you do the communication follow-up, you'll find that that is really, really a fantastic way of going about reaching out to people, especially if you've got some people who just don't interact with you in any other way as you're reaching out. Events, again, can open that door. Keep it simple. Obviously, there's a lot of energy that gets expended into inviting, communicating, planning, and then executing an event. And there are budget considerations. So both of these things take very high priority when it comes to deciding, you know, what kind of event might you want to do, what kind of budget are you going to be able to put behind it, how much time and energy do you have, understanding, you know, there are the crazier seasons of the market cycle, which means that you probably aren't wanting to have, you know, your signature big event every year in May or April. You know, those months, that March, April, May area, super, super crazy most of the time. You've got a little bit of a taper off during the summer, and then well who knows what the real estate cycle is going to look like for the foreseeable future, just because the past couple of years have been so different than expected. But there are a lot of different ways that you can look at this when it comes to being able to maximize your energy, maximize your budget, and also that planning aspect of just understanding your busy times as well. A few ideas for you. Love you a latte. So this would be where you find a local coffee shop, and you pay for people's coffee as they come through. It gives you a chance to actually sit down and talk to people. This is great in February. So again, right before the big push typically happens when it comes to the spring season, the spring cycle, and it's right during that time when people are maybe starting to entertain a little bit more, what they want to do. Technically, that's happening earlier, but again, if you are doing this in middle of February, you're probably reaching out to people right around the first of the year, maybe, middle of January to start inviting people. So again, you're hitting people at a time when they are going to probably be pretty active when it comes to thinking about potentially putting their house on the market, buying or selling. So that one really is fantastic. The other really nice thing is it's fairly low energy cost to you. Find ideally a local coffee shop that you can invite people to. Let them know that you're coming, obviously, so that they can plan accordingly. You can make it fun. There's a ton of different ways that you can go about really branding it and making it your event, even if it might be somewhere else that you're holding it. But that one is fairly straightforward. An ice cream social. So later in the summer, same kind of thing. Find a local ice cream shop. You've got vouchers for people to be able to just come have ice cream. You get to talk with people. It's an outdoor event. Which depending on where you live may or may not be a fantastic thing in August or late summer. But that's another one where it's fairly simple and straightforward for you. It's the invite, it's figuring out how to make it fun, how to make it branded to you, and finding that local person to help with. An Earth Day tree giveaway. If this is a day of the year that you really like celebrating, finding a local nursery and getting the RSVPs and just getting small trees, doing something along those lines for Earth Day. So it's one of those where it's like you don't have to necessarily go off of the really big holidays. Pie giveaway, that one we just passed Thanksgiving, and most of the time that's when you're going to be seeing the pie giveaways. Pumpkin pies, apple pies, right there around the Thanksgiving holiday. I've got a whole plan for that I am going to include so that you can see that really, really easily. But essentially, these events, they can be as complicated or as simple as you choose. If you've got a pool in your neighborhood and you have the opportunity, to just have a pool party, if that's something that your community would allow, there's a lot of different creative ways that you can go off of things that are meaningful and important to you, that are still going to be an event. You can invite people, you can interact with folks, but it's not necessarily always going to be something where it's going to require a ton from you. So again, keep it simple. Those are just a few ideas right off the top of my head. If you are a donut person and you want to celebrate National Donut Day, figure out when that is next year and figure out what you're going to do to make it fun. So, I mean, it's definitely one of those kinds of things where you can go crazy when it comes to creativity side of things. Sky is truly the limit, but don't think that you have to hit that limit in order for it to be successful. Keep it simple, make it easy for yourself, especially the first few, just so you can get your feet under you, find the best practices, what works for you. Communication. Okay, so this is a huge one. And the communication is everything from the invite to reminders to confirmations, to everything that happens after the fact. So you're going to outline a communication structure And some of it's probably going to be dependent upon what your actual event is. If you are throwing something that, is going to take a bit more effort for you, you're probably going to want to give yourself a little bit more lead time. If it's one of those kinds of things where it's a little bit more spur of the moment, off the cuff, you're just going to be, doing something and seeing what kind of traction you can get. Obviously, that communication structure and that timeline will probably be shortened. But essentially, your pre-event communication is probably going to be a combination of video messaging, emails, text messages, and then obviously like having the actual invite set up. So, if you're just inviting people and getting them to, email, text, call you back, then you can definitely just do that. You can also set up something on Eventbrite. You could use a Google form. There are a ton of different ways that you could actually log those people who said they wanted to come. Sweet thing there is that now you are capturing like the number of people who are coming a little bit more reliably. And you're also getting that communication information that they have to enter in order to be able to sign up. So there's, layers to this. Again, if you want to keep it super simple and you're only inviting like, 20 different people, then it does make it fairly easy. But when you start growing, you may find that having a longer communication runway for certain events is very important. And you may also find that having some of those online options for RSVP will also make your life a whole lot easier. Again, pre-event communication. So it's going to be everything from, probably starting with an email, a text message, or a video message if you wanted to, just sending that out to folks. You're probably looking at something, depending on your runway, every week or every other week, depending on how much time you have, just reminding people. So if you get half of your people to sign up, within those first couple of messages, awesome. You're probably going to want to continue reminding people that they can RSVP up to a certain date, and then being able then to put those parameters on it for you, so you don't have people who very, very, very last minute, are saying that they want to come, but you may have had to have told somebody, that you needed X number of something. You're planning for a certain number before that very last minute. So obviously initial invites, and then note cards. Again, looking for a different way to reach out. We've got some scripts that I'll put in so that you've got those as a as an option when it comes to being able to look at different ways of touching people, sort of like we talked about with other marketing. Confirmations. So again, depending on what you're doing and what your investment is as far as needing to know how many people you're going to have, just confirming with people. And most of the time that's going to be best done with a phone call. So if you can take an evening or an afternoon at some point and just call, touch base with folks, remind them of any details that you want to remind them of, doing all of that, laying that groundwork, ahead of time really is a very, very useful thing. Again, keeping you top of mind, but allowing you to be in front of your people, talking with them because you're inviting them to something. So that's kind of leading up to that event. Now, post communication or post event communication, we're talking about things like follow-up note cards, follow-up emails, follow-up texts. And here's the really sweet thing. So if you've got another event planned, this also gives you the opportunity to tee that one up. So you can, express your gratitude for people coming. If you had great conversations, mention specific points that you were chatting with specific people about. And from that point, now you've got the fun of saying, hey, P.S., I'm doing XYZ in another few months. Would love to see you there. I'll let you know if the details come available. Something along those lines. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. If you have like drawings, prizes, those kinds of things, obviously that's something that you can announce, that you can follow up with folks about. Um, Ideally, you're probably going to be following up with people a couple different times. So that, could be an email announcing winners or just sharing pictures of the event, what have you. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about, having a reason to touch base with those people after the event. And then another couple weeks later, it's something where you could be writing those note cards. Hey, just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. Loved seeing you and the family. However you want to phrase all of that. And again, kind of teeing up, that's something. That's also an awesome opportunity to ask for that referral. Again, you're bringing into the equation the fact that you gave them the opportunity to be at this event with you, to have fun with you, to, celebrate whatever it was. And if they know of somebody who is looking to buy or sell, send that referral to you. So again, it very much is one of those kinds of things where being direct, but understanding kind of the psychology behind some of this will be very, very helpful. You must have an RSVP system. So kind of going back, I think this was on the previous slide where we were talking about, Jotform, Google Forms, Eventbrite. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But again, having that RSVP system, first couple of times might not be that many people. It might be simple and straightforward to just get those people and plug them into a Google spreadsheet or something along those lines. But keep in mind that you want to make this as simple for yourself as possible, which means that there needs to be a way to log those people who are actually coming. So something for you to consider with that. Quick recommendations. Okay, so most of the time, especially if you're a solo agent, all of the details, all of the expenses, all of the everything could get to be feeling pretty overwhelming. The way that you want to go about this most of the time, you are going to have sponsors. You are going to have other people who are going to be able to be there with you that day, who may be contributing to the budget in order to pull this off. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at this, but having a sponsor is, especially early on, probably going to be more of a pro than a con. If you have a closing agent, or a lender, or anybody that you are working with and giving business to on a regular basis, those would probably be the first people to reach out to. If you've recommended this lender and he's worked with a number of your clients, or if you've got that closer that you work with at the title company, those would be really natural first people to ask. Cons of the whole thing when it comes to sponsors, obviously it does complicate matters just a bit. It's one of those situations where there's not maybe as much independence or autonomy, depending on how you set it up. There may be expectations that you'll need to follow through on. So there's a lot of different things to maybe consider, but especially early on, having that extra person there, having the extra budget dollars is not necessarily a bad thing. So again, lenders, title reps, people that you're interacting with, that you're giving business to, again, very, very much of a reciprocal kind of situation. Other service providers that you've got a solid relationship with. So, if there's inspectors that you work with on an individual basis, reaching out to them, finding out if they would like to be a part, and, expectations as far as budget and showing up and whatever else you find that you need. Who else would want to be in front of your clients, and what's the benefit to them? So as you're going through this, you're going to want to have thought through and have your plan pretty much in place. What is it that this person sponsoring is going to gain from this? Is it one of those kinds of things where, they're a plumber, an electrician, somebody along those lines, and you can offer specials to your clients, If they're there, they've now got the opportunity to talk with these people about maybe home improvement projects or what comes up along those lines that is applicable to those people. Getting them to offer a discount, a coupon, having flyers or something where their information is on it, and as well as yours. Don't don't go so far the other direction that you're just giving them the spotlight. But those are the kinds of things where when you're thinking about bringing somebody on to help you sponsor an event, having a reason for them to want to do so is huge. And especially early on, you've got the opportunity to kind of experiment with what seems to work the best. If it's something where really you just need help with the budget, but you don't really expect somebody else to be there, title reps and lenders, that's probably a great situation for them. Although again, having a lender on site, if it's an area and an event where people can actually be talking and having conversations, that's probably a pretty big thing too. So there's definitely a lot to think about. But I would definitely lean towards having sponsors, finding somebody to help out with the financial and the on-site interactions. Take lots of pictures. This is another one of those things where it gives you a great reason to follow up. It gives you marketing material and images and content for social media. There's just a ton of different ways that you can go about being able to leverage photos from your event. Everybody's smiling, they're having fun. It will probably work as an encouragement for those people who didn't come or weren't able to come to make sure that they're there the next time. So find somebody who's actually able to do pictures. You as the agent, people are going to be talking with you. You're kind of that central hub for all of these people. So your time and your attention is going to be in high demand, which means that you probably are not going to be getting a ton of great pictures yourself. You're probably going to want to outsource that. So again, like if you've got friends, easy enough. Somebody who's got some photography skills, they've got an iPhone, smartphone of some kind, you're probably good to go. If you really wanted to go all out, and depending on the event, you might end up wanting to go with a professional. To start out with, you really just want those candids. You want the just the in the moment kind of photos that you can then be able to share. But again, you don't want to necessarily just have somebody who just walks around snapping pictures. You actually want people's faces. You actually want to be able to have some good photos from that event. If you are putting that event on, leverage the heck out of it and get some good photos. Again, they can go the photos, they can go everywhere and help build into the momentum and the excitement for your next event. So again, this idea of leverage where it's like, okay, what can you do one time, or what can you do, but then have it pay off where it's something that interests people further down the road, that allows you to, if you do this event again next year, what is it that you're going to be able to leverage from having photos of that event? So it doesn't have to be expensive. Again, keep it simple, but having somebody there taking photos is definitely something that you probably want to prioritize. Didn't put it on here, but prizes are another thing that you can use as incentive for people to actually come, to actually show up. And there's a number of different ways that you can look at this. You could look at it as, multiple different prizes, and it could be something that ties in with wherever it is that you're holding the event. So if it's at a coffee shop, gift cards to the coffee shop, finding additional ways to give back to the local local businesses. So that's one way of doing it. You could do something that's larger, that's more like a raffle or a door prize, something along those lines. So tons of different ways that you can treat that, but prizes are definitely something that adds a fun element to an event. All right. To achieve great things, two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. I love this quote because it is so very true. Most of us work best when we have got a deadline that we don't feel quite capable of hitting, that's going to stretch us, that's going to push it. And most of the time, it turns out just fine. That's kind of one of those crazy things where it's like we've got all the time in the world sometimes to pull something off, and more time is not always a great thing. So, what I'm going to encourage you to do is, regardless of whether it's something that you're going to do next month or within the next 3 months, find something that you would be excited to throw an event around. Again, keep it simple, keep it small. Does not have to be your entire database, but just having something to be in front of people, to talk, to have those conversations in person, that can really help. Give yourself a deadline, work yourself towards it. You're probably not going to feel ready or um, totally prepared, and that's perfectly fine. That is perfectly normal. Give it your best, do the planning up ahead of time, and just go for it and have some fun. All right, week 12 homework. Come up with an event that you would like to put together in the next 3 months. Create your outline for how you're going to get there. Again, there are going to be a lot of resources in your course area, so you'll have the opportunity to actually look at those, to actually have some guidance when it comes to being able to put a timeline together for your event. But again, find something that you're actually going to have some fun with. Keep it simple, and believe it or not, you will be able to pull it off. Referrals, that beauty of being able to actually have face-to-face conversations with people, the payoff of it will be fantastic. One final note, our Q&A call will be this Thursday, but I am moving that time back. So if you are, have questions, especially as we get towards the end and just kind of want to wrap everything up, answer questions that you've got, whether it's events or something else, definitely let me know, and I will be sending out a reminder and a link for this updated time. Think that will do it for now. Again, look forward to seeing you in a couple of days and having those conversations. Take care.